You're listening to the Platinum Standard in Paranormal Talk, Paratopia, with Jeff Ritzmann and Jeremy Vaeni.
Jeff Ritzmann.
And Jeremy Vaeni.
I like that you say and.
That's right.
And Jeremy Vaeni.
Well, it's kind of our title.
Right. The law offices of Jeff Ritzmann and Jeremy Vaeni.
Correct.
Another Paratopia is upon us. That's our show, by the way. Yes.
Right. That's the show.
If you hear noise, it's my roommate's either making dinner or playing a video game. So.
That's no excuse for poor quality audio.
No, that is exactly the excuse for poor quality audio. That and not enough donations from listeners. Listeners like you people out there right now. Oh, wait.
Right, that's it.
No.
What is this, the Paracast? Did I say that out loud?
It's a gold standard show. This is the platinum standard show.
That's correct. That's what the man said at the beginning. That's right.
So, the Jeff, when last we spoke, I think we had left off and synchronicities had come up and you said, oh, we could do a whole show on synchronicities.
Right.
And I thought, that's not true, but let's put it to the test. And in case we can't, I have yet another question from a listener that we can delve into.
Sure. And
random other things to talk about, as always. So let's start it off with the synchronicity bit. What is it that you had in mind that you thought, oh, that could fill 2 hours?
Well, I don't know that it would fill 2 hours. I thought it would be a nice kickoff point.
Damn it.
Yeah. So there's that. It's like probably, I don't know, the past 6 months or so. I've got a Facebook friend who every once in a while, and she'll kill me for forgetting her name, but if she's listening, and she probably is, she'll know it's her, and she'll go, yeah, that's me. Has been posting for a number of months now, every time that she gets a repeated number on her cell phone, or meaning a 1111 or 1010 or 555 or 333 on the clock, and I would say she's posted probably about 4, 5 maybe. I get those literally, at least 3 times a week. It's ridiculous. And it usually comes, I would say and I have screen grabbed the vast majority of them. Some of them I've just barely missed grabbing, but I'll wake up on the couch, turn off the TV, go in and brush my teeth, come upstairs and turn my phone on to set my alarm on the phone. That's how I get up. And it's 3:33. This is, at a ridiculous rate. I could be at work and the same thing will happen. I'll get the repeated numbers, whether it's 555 or 333 or 111 or something like that. It's a ridiculous amount. And I screen cap all of them. So I've got like a phone full of these. And I don't go hunting them. It's not like I sit there waiting at 110 for this to happen. I look at the phone and there it is, and I just click the screen capture buttons and off the races I go. And then was it last weekend, I think, I was watching The Martian, which I had not seen in the theaters, and I'm watching it and I'm thinking, here's a guy who just wants to go home. You think about the planets and you think about what we're separated by, and you just wonder, why in the world should it be so hard? Why should it be so difficult to get from one place to another? And I realized the distance is one thing, but I thought to myself, we are surrounded by frigid, vacuumous death is what separates the planets. That's what really separates us from going elsewhere. We got to have air to breathe. You got to have water to drink. You've got to have food to eat during these vast distances, at least at the present time. And the next day, I think it was the very next day, you send me a text that says, Let me pull it out. You sent me this text, and I'm like, really? You said out of nowhere at 1:57 a.m. on 1/27/2016. You said, you find it odd that this planet is surrounded by cold, non-atmospheric death. And I said, well, I find it odd that any planet is. Like, why is space what it is? And I would say that's kind of an abstract, weird thought to have. But watching The Martian, you definitely these are the things that I ponder. Like, why is it that this is the way it has to be?
Now, I didn't know you were watching The Martian, just to put it out there.
Yeah.
So this is another random coincidence.
This is another, yes, exactly. And then this week, I think it was the past couple days, Karen Totten, a friend of the show, had put a post on Facebook. Now, pre me reading Facebook that morning, I had again woken up on the couch very late, probably close to 4 a.m. But I awakened from a dream that I don't remember a lot of, but it was tactily specific. It had a very tactile feel to it. And it involved birds. I remember parakeets, a parakeet, a brightly colored parakeet. And I remember people standing around me that I was talking to or something. And like out of nowhere, I just threw my arm up, my left arm up, and this humongous bird lands on my arm. And I've got this protective, like real thick leather covering on my arm, and the talons are biting into this leather. I can hear them, literally not cracking, but like scraping this leathery feel. And I can feel the tightness on my arm of this bird. And it's, and I want to say it's like an eagle or a hawk. It's some kind of raptor, bird of prey type thing. And I woke up. The next morning, I think, I'm reading Facebook, and Karen Totten has posted that she had a very vivid dream about birds, very colorful birds, ones that were colored like panda bears, but others that were very brightly colored. And I want to say she said something about a big bird, but I'm not sure. But just the very idea that she too had a very vivid dream about birds. I'm like, really? So I piped up and I told her about that. But, it's things like that that are becoming very frequent. Like your text and her dream, the numerical thing, I don't know. I mean, can you put that down to it's just the body clock that makes you look at your watch at that specific time? Or is it more?
My answer to that. Which we talked about on the old Paratopia show, but just as a refresher. Now, every now and then you see it and you go, 333, make a wish, ha ha ha, or 111, make a wish, ha ha ha, whatever. And
I just wanted to point out that I ended my conversation and you began talking at 15:15 on our clock. I'm just saying you can check it
on our Skype clock.
Yes,
nice, perfect. Well, there you go, but. You remember me telling you that I remember this happening, and it's always like 11:11, make a wish, 10:10, make a wish,
right?
And so one fine day, I jokingly made the wish that time would stop, or something like that.
Uh-huh.
And from that point on, every day of my life, from years ago, 11:11, 5:55, 10:10, like a cosmic joke. And you could say, well, it's because you're looking for those numbers, but I was always looking for those numbers. Well. I was looking for those numbers before I made the joke, and that's why I would say, like, 10:10, make a wish, then I'd make a wish for something.
Right.
But it would be rare. That's why it was an event that you make a wish for, because very rarely does that ever happen. And now it's several times a day, every day for, I don't know, how many years has it been? 3, 5? Something ridiculous. So I think that, therefore, it cannot be chalked up to just that you're looking for it.
It is just absolutely absurd, the frequency of it. I mean, it's just absurd. And I have no like I said, the only thing that came to mind to me was, is it a body clock type of thing? That you just happen to look at a certain time because it's routine, and you wake up at a certain time, you take the right amount of time brushing. But I mean, all those factors to factor in.
But you weren't doing that before.
No, and it's like, and I say this, and it's just to have some kind of maybe rationale to it. But, the one night, the dog had to go out. And so I woke up. I went in and brushed my teeth. I'm getting ready to go to bed. I get upstairs. I hear the dog whine. I come downstairs. I let him out. He comes back in. I put him to bed. I turn the lights out. I get back upstairs. I look at my clock, 3:33. Now, had the dog not had to take a leak, it wouldn't have been the right time. But all those things happened and couldn't have happened any other way. And there it was. I look at my clock as I'm going. And I even said to myself, like, I say it under my breath at night, like I'm standing next to the bed, Lisa's sound asleep. And I go, "What, are you kidding me?" I mean, I say this like somebody else is listening, it's crazy frequent. And now the other odd synchronicities are happening that don't necessarily have a time stamp on them, but have like a similar thought that not everybody thinks, and a dream that not everyone has. It's like a rare thing. A rare thought is being repeated back to me as I'm repeating it, as I'm saying it. That's just like really bizarre.
So what does it do for you?
Nothing.
Well, what does it do when it happens? No, it does something.
I don't know. It's confounding. That's it for me. It's a confounding.
I mean, doesn't it? Because for me, I mean, it wakes me up into myself every time. It's like, it's like, oh yeah, this is all a dream or something. This is all an illusion. There's like that feeling to it of being puppet mastered or puppeteered or something. You don't get that at all?
I get that, like that twinge of weirdness of just that. It's not even a oh, of course. It's not even that kind of feeling. It's I guess there is that feeling of the reality operator on the other end giving me a code or something, like that kind of matrixy quirk tweak, like a glitch. I feel glitchy when that happens. Like there's some glitch going on.
So do you think that that's real though? Or do you think that it's like, it would feel that way because what it really is the interconnectivity of all things becoming apparent? And when that happens to us, it feels as though there's, a man behind the curtain.
I don't know how the interconnectivity of all things would fit into that. How does that fit into that?
Well, like, you and Karen having a shared dream, or I say something you're thinking,
yeah.
That sort of thing. And essentially, you're just the fact that coincidence is being called into question. Right.
Well, I guess when they come with alarming frequency is I mean, that to me is the real weird part. Like I could blow off I'll put it to you this way. Like when you and I had the thing with the atmosphere thing, it reminded me a lot of Lee Townsend and I back in the day, because we would have like shared thoughts. We would have, and we would always put it down to, and back then we thought in terms of they, when it was thinking about the phenomena of the alien, the facade of the alien. We would always say they, we would say they're pulling strings. They're making these things, appear or happen, that we're both recognizing at the same time in the same place, but separate from each other, we would always put it down to something like that. Synchronistic events were, at the time, many years ago, considered something like a message or a hey, look over here type thing. I don't necessarily see it that way anymore. But it is odd that you and I would have that same kind of event that would happen, and Karen and me and Karen having that same dream. It's just weird. And then to me, the next question is, well, how many other people that I know had that same dream and just don't remember it, or don't want to say that they remember because they don't want to be a me too, right? So I don't know. I guess the question would be, if it's the interconnectivity of all things, then why are we only noticing it on these rare occasions? And why do these rare occasions become more frequent at periods? What facilitates the frequency of it?
When you're saying the atmosphere thing between us, you mean that the atmosphere changes when we speak deeply of things, right?
No, I'm talking about the atmospheric question you asked about planets. That part of it. That question coinciding with my question of the same ilk.
I see.
During the film. I mean, that right there, because, I mean, we're not going to sit here and deny that both of us aren't experiencers at this point. It's like, yes, we are. And yes, we have exactly the same thought. And yes, that is not the first time that's happened either. Well,
here's something else that's funny. Now that I'm just remembering this, when I saw The Martian in the theater, I actually did a blog post about it, and the blog post, if I remember, was about synchronicities, and about how, to me, the message of the movie, my takeaway anyway, was, yes, even with all of his science and all of his bleep, bloop, bloop, bleep, and mathematics, at the end of the day, it comes down to a precise moment and a very 1 in a million coincidence of,
right.
Jumping from whatever it was, pod to pod or an outer space.
Well, yeah,
where the big thing was. But it's like, at the end of the day, you still have a leap of faith that has to occur. So all of your planning and your mechanics and your science can bring you to the precipice of the leap of faith, but then you just got to leap,
right,
and hope that it actually gets you there.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't know. I mean, maybe that's kind of related in some weird way.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I just, and oddly enough, I was.
The synchronicity is the lining up of things, right?
Yeah, I mean, I've been thinking a lot more about synchronicities, and oddly enough, like, there hasn't been any synchronicities today, save for one. That was a bit of a stretch if you're going to make a hard line, thing about coincidence or synchronicity. I was cleaning my downstairs collector room, and I brought some hats upstairs to put in a drawer. And when I opened the drawer, to the chest of drawers that's largely been moved from one room to another, Dr. Kirby Surprise's book called Synchronicities was in that drawer, and it was the only thing in that drawer. So,
surprise.
There's that. Yeah, exact surprise. But that there is a book that I know that you have read, right? And I read the beginning part, but when he gets to the point where he says, well, here's the thing, you can put this into practice, but you need to be warned that, some of this could be a little hair raising, and you might not, once you see it, you can't unsee it. And I'm like, yeah, I don't want to read any more of this. Like, I got enough. I don't need synchronicity too. And now I've got it anyway. So maybe the answer is, to hell with it, read the book. But I mean, I can't say that I've ever had the frequency of synchronistic time stamps as much as I've had them the past 6 to 8 months. I never noticed them before that. I mean, it's extremely frequent, and I just, every time I see it, I'm just like, this is ridiculous.
It's another one of those things too that feels like it's leading to something.
Yeah.
Or else, why did it just start now? Why didn't it start when you were a kid or something? You know what I mean? Like, why hasn't it always been with you? Anytime something like that starts and then it has to do with time, I think just a natural inclination is to say, oh, well, this means something. This hill of mashed potatoes. But I don't know that it does.
I guess this is the part where I mentioned that, God, it's probably been, what was it, before Christmas? I think it was before Christmas, right before Christmas. I was at work and I punched my time card at 11:11. So I noticed that first. Then it was, I think, after I shot one production video downstairs, I came back upstairs. I looked at my phone, and it was 12:12. So I immediately thought, okay, enough of this. And I sat down, and I kid you not, there are times, and I'm sure anybody listening will be able to attest to this, that there are times where, like, you're at a funeral, or you're at a lecture that you don't want to be at, or you're doing some manual labor that has to be done, and you feel like it takes forever. You feel like time is never going to move past this point. You're absolutely doomed, to follow this dreaded drudgery of time for the rest of your life. Like, this is never going to end. Well, that particular day, there was 2 synchronistic timestamps in a row, and when I looked at my watch for the third time, it literally felt from 12:12 to 1:11, which was the third synchronistic timestamp of the day. It literally felt like it should have been 4:30. This was not the normal, wow, this is really a long day. This was something else. This was utterly absurd. Because I finished projects that should have taken me hours, and I finished them literally in an hour and some minutes. I don't see any real explanation for that, considering it's still to this day. It's a repetitive project that I do at least 3 times a week, and they take me every bit of, a few hours to do. And this day, I got them done in an hour. And I felt like, well, it should be at least 3:30. I should probably go eat my lunch, because I work 11 to 7, so it's like lunchtime is around 3 for me. No, it was 1:11. And I was like, that's crazy. It can't possibly be 1:11. And then the rest of the day, I thought would never end. I mean, it was the longest day of my life. I have never experienced anything like it ever. But I said to the girl at the end of the aisle, I said, has today seemed really absurdly long to you? And she goes, it's weird. I was just telling the girl across the aisle that today is just dragging. I mean, what is that? And at that point, you literally wonder, is physical time dragging? Is the sun not going quite as fast as it did yesterday? I don't know how to phrase that any better than this was far and away much different from a day just dragging because you're bored. This was not that at all. I was very busy. I was pacing myself work-wise. I can't find an explanation for why that day seemed like it was 2 days worth of work. It's just crazy.
Yeah, well, personal time is weird that way. I feel like today it was sped up for me. Today, every time I would look at my watch, well, not my watch, but the clock, it would be a half hour later than I would ever have thought.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is great.
But see, I have that a lot, Yeah, I have. That doesn't seem that far out of kilter. But this day was just absurd. And I thought, God, if tomorrow's like this, I don't know if I can survive at this workplace anymore.
Well, it's weird because, the older I get, the more time seems to be speeding up up. Because yes. I remember being a kid and you stare at the clock and just, it drags.
Yes.
Each class is an hour and a half or whatever it is. Right. And it just drags and you think like, oh my God, I'm dying here. I mean, I remember that from childhood.
Sure.
And thinking, wow, this is what life is. And then it just keeps speeding up and speeding up.
Right.
So maybe there's something you're tapping into that's bringing you back to childhood mode in your brain or something.
I don't know. I mean, it felt very strange. It was a very strange feeling day. But I have no explanation for that. And 3 synchronistic timestamps throughout that day. I was just like, okay, 3 times in a row, every hour on the hour? Really? I don't know. It wasn't one of those days where I was literally like, I got to get out of here today, or I don't feel like being here. I had plenty of stuff to do, plenty to keep me busy. And I know when I'm busy, the day moves faster. Like if I have a lot of work to do or I have tight deadlines, which I usually have, the day goes fast. Everything gets done. I'm good. And this day was no different than any other. It's just, I don't know. I ended my work early. I was done by 3:00. And it all should have taken me much longer than that to do, but it was done. So I don't know. I don't know what to say about that past the longest day of my life.
Well, let's back up and get into what we were talking about in terms of space being a vacuum and all of that. Here's maybe a nice coincidence too, which is when were we talking about this, on Friday together?
Yeah, I think so.
Today is Sunday. So on Saturday, I was at work, and I ended up working in another facility alone, which never happens. And so I decided to put on YouTube videos of Krishnamurti being interviewed by Dr. Anderson. I can't remember what his full name is, but he's an old-timey professor somewhere, I think a poet and whatever. And they were talking about the nature of beauty, which was what we were talking about in terms of, you were saying, why does space look beautiful?
Right. Yeah.
And I've been on this kick of, way back when I'd said, nothingness, if you take away all things, you have a concept. The concept is nothingness. Therefore, you have intelligence prior to forms, prior to the brain. Because without the brain, you've got nothing, and nothing is a concept. So it's a circular sort of thing. And then after interviewing Tyler Kochjon on The Experience, I don't know, somewhere in there I got it stuck in my head of senses work the same way. Like, you don't even have to do the nothingness thing. You can make it even clearer and just say, it doesn't make sense that that sex feels as good as it does. It doesn't make sense that things taste good and taste bad unless you introduce the idea of importance. That there's something about procreation that is important. There's something about living, not eating poison and eating things that are good for you and all of that is important. And that's something that science cannot get at, right? Because the importance comes first. I mean, you would have to say the importance comes first, and then it produces the creature, us, animals, whatever, plants, that behave accordingly, that want to be alive and have this life drive. So there's that thing that science can never get to. It can always talk about the things in the middle, the mechanics and all of that, but it can't get to that very beginning, because that very beginning, I think, it just points to that the very beginning, which isn't really a beginning, but is just simply intelligence in which all things are manifesting. It just gets to that for me. And so this conversation that they were having was basically saying the same thing about beauty, that beauty is not something that is a thought construct. It's not something that you create in your head. It exists whether you live or die. There's beauty. And it doesn't have any, like, everybody agrees, outer space is beautiful. It's just something that you stumble into and you go, oh my God, and you're overwhelmed by beauty.
Yeah.
So I don't know. There's something about that I feel like there's a thread to pull on in some way. But it also gets to, I mean, the thing that we were talking about is just, isn't it weird that we live in this bubble? We live in science, again, can explain eloquently what atmosphere is, what it's comprised of. Can't quite figure out gravity, but kind of knows, things circle other things and spiral out and all of this. But at the end of the day, we're this little bubble. and full of life and all these different forms in the middle of the death, of just this black death that is nearly impossible to pierce, to move through, to get to other planets that are also dead, you know?
Right.
And don't you find that a little bit odd? You know, and NASA is like pulling its teeth trying to say, look, we've got microbes, we've got this, we've got that, trying to get funding to go out, and, you know, deeper and deeper. But really, they've got nothing. I mean, the truth is, they don't know that they have Martian microbes. Like, that's the actual truth. They don't know what they have. And, you know, and we're certainly not finding anything that smacks of life there. So what if it is just us? Or if life is, you know, super rare or something. I don't know. It just seems odd that it would be even rare. You know, like, why is it surrounded by a cold vacuum of space? It's just weird. And nobody ever calls attention to how weird it is.
Right. Well, because it's just always been that way, you know, since we've discovered it, this is the way it is, you know, so you talk about science not being able to account for these things. Well, they don't really take into account what has been and always was. There is no accounting for that. I don't think they feel the need to qualify it in any meaningful way, except to say such things are obvious. To me, like I said to you, it's the very fact that we're on these globs of mud, and we're an intelligent species that is ever evolving. And there may be others out there on other balls of mud who are evolving, and some who aren't. Some that will survive, and some that will not. And you know, the way I think is that one of the natural parts of evolution of species, at least here and probably elsewhere, is to leave the birthplace, to venture out, because once that's next to being used up, if not completely used up, it can no longer support life, and so the species dies. So the whole thing to me is very synonymous with the birthing process. So we call it Mother Earth. And probably rightly so. It gave birth to us, and what do we do with a baby who gives birth? They grow up and they move away. Well, this is what I said on the very last Paratopia episode of version 1, which is that we're not moving away. And this is, I think, why there are so many ecological problems, global warming and pollution and all of these kinds of things that are far worse, believe me, than I'm sure most people realize. You know, if you hear about global warming in one respect and then a ball of trash in the ocean, picture it 10 times worse, because I don't think we're being told the truth of just how bad it is. And I think that's part and parcel to the fact that we have focused so much of our science and our I don't know, our time and efforts into how do we grow better plants faster to feed more people? How do we reproduce more to produce more to use up more, rather than you know, looking up? Sometimes I think the UFO is a tease. You know, you should be doing this. This is where you should be going. This is where you should be moving. You are the alien. Be the alien. Which is all a product of, you know, she's carried us to term. Now the amniotic fluid rather is drying up, and there won't be too much. You know, can you picture our civilization in another 500 years? I can't. We need to get out of here because she needs to heal and probably give birth to the next thing. And who knows if that has already happened before? You know, has that happened before? Has another species come to be here and left here, and we're like the second or fourth or 10th or 40th iteration of this? We don't know. You know, these are things I don't believe science can really tell us. But why are we surrounded by cold, vacuumous death? I say it's because the dumb don't need to leave here. You know, the idiots need to stay behind and die. You know, and not speaking of anybody on this planet right now. What I'm saying is, in the grand scheme of multiple planets with life, only the smart will survive. Only the people or civilizations that have their crap together are going to be able to get off world and live, either as a spacefaring culture or as a colony to go somewhere else and start something new. You know, it's kind of like reality as the obelisk from 2001. You know, it led us from one space to another place to another place. When you get here, you've reached the zenith. But when you reach here, your technology has to evolve to such a level as you can get here, but then you need to overcome your technology. That's the answer in the end of that movie. You're forced to confront your technology that got you here and move beyond that. It kind of works the same way to me. The vacuumous death of space is the filter to filter out the civilizations that need not procreate any further than their own ball of mud. That's my outlook on it.
So then, do you think that the drive to go into outer space is an essential drive, just like the sex drive and the life drive?
Yeah, I do. I do. You know, I can't tell you how infuriating it is for me to hear. I was just watching Law and Order the other night, and SVU, and one of the characters on there said something about what the government spends money on, and they were talking about all of these different programs that they have, and then the big crescendo of the conversation was they waste all this money on space exploration when we got bigger problems down here. Well, we wouldn't have bigger problems down here if we had spent more of our time trying to get out there further, out there and get better. I mean, anybody will tell you NASA's grossly underfunded now. It's like they've cut back on exploring this and that. Yeah, we got the Mars rover and we've got plans to go to Mars. You know, I mean, I feel like we could have been doing this back in the 80s. I think we could have been shooting for Mars. I mean, we stopped going to the moon, in the 70s, right? So 80s, next logical step. Let's get a move on. Let's start this thing going. Instead, you know, we spent a lot of money on a space station, which is a great benefit. But what is next? What's the next thing? The next thing is everybody being able to get out there, everybody being able to leave. I don't think we've spent enough money and time and effort and passion on getting out of here because we don't know where to go.
Well, what about the obvious criticism that we can't leave? We need to sort of evolve spiritually, quote unquote.
Oh yeah, before
we are allowed to go out, because otherwise, then we just become a cancerous colonizing entity the way we are here.
Absolutely.
Like, you know, do you really just kill Earth and then go? I mean, that was my whole problem with not The Martian, but the other one with Matthew McConaughey.
Interstellar, yeah.
Well, there were a lot of problems with that one, but one of them was this notion of, going and colonizing another place because and terraforming a place because we just can't handle it here. And it's like, well, wait, why don't we just handle our business at home and then we don't need to terraform anything?
Right. Well, that's true too. But yeah, I think
like, what do you think the point is? If you think that there is a drive and a need to get out into space, well, it can't be to shirk our responsibilities and just go build somewhere else, right? You must have the intention of actually meeting somebody, right? Like, is there a meeting of minds that is much like in 2001 that needs to occur?
Well, I think if you don't explore the local neighborhood, I think you're less likely to find anybody. I mean, do you think that's an inevitability? Because I thought that your take on the whole alien thing was that they don't necessarily really even exist in this universe. And that's possible. But what do you think? And it's possible. Well, I know it's possible, but what do you, Jeff Ritzman, think? And it's also possible that if we got out there and they saw us coming, that they would probably hide. I mean, that's the other option. What do I think? Whew. I mean, as far as alien life, I mean, like real alien life, like from another planet. I think it's probably true. I think they're probably closer than we think, but still absurdly far away. I think that we've gazed upon stars that definitely contain that kind of life, but I think that we're not in on the discussion. If there is a meeting of minds out there going on, I think we're definitely being watched and we're being assessed, not by virtue of flying saucers or anything like that, but by a higher technology that we can't possibly fathom. Listening to radio signals, maybe, who knows? But I think you would agree with me when I say things have gotten ridiculously dumber since the 90s. Am I wrong?
In what sense? I mean, I'm always willing to agree with that, but I'm cynical. So what do you mean?
Politically?
Oh, yeah.
I think I look at, and I don't care who this offends. I love all of you listeners, but I don't care who this offends. I look at the GOP candidacy and I go, really? I've never seen a bigger bunch of turds walk the face of the planet that want the biggest job in the world, and the biggest moronic buffoon is the one who's leading. And you're going to tell me we haven't gotten dumber since the 1990s? I know you're not telling me this, but I'm saying people go, oh, no, everything's excelling. No, it's not excelling. It's de-evolving at this point. Spirituality now has become a battleground. It's become something that you kill for, from idiots taking over federal land to radical Muslims to, just take your pick. To Jesus camp and all this nonsense. I mean, really? Really? This is the natural progression of evolution? This is the natural progression of intelligence? I don't think so. The Kardashians, I can go on. I mean,
yeah,
this is the bane of my existence.
I think that even about all of it. Yeah, the whole religious thing of we've got to respect each other. It's like, wait, I thought we were transcending this. I thought we were getting out of this. I thought this was the last gasp of the old dinosaur. I didn't think we were going to turn around, and now we've got to respect each other's beliefs that we know are nonsense.
Well, now Bill Maher says that it's down 10%, the belief system, that the belief system matters, at least when it comes to picking a president. That it used to be 15, or it used to be 25%, now it's down to 15% who care about that. Now it's less people care, about what religion the president is. Because Bernie Sanders said he's Jewish, but he's not a practicing Jew, and he doesn't go to synagogue and all that. He's not into organized religion. This was his statement. And less people care about that these days. Okay, but across the ocean, we've got people who so care about it that they'll go to another country and impose their own religious law upon a neighborhood to the point of, covering up murders and robberies. And really? I mean, come on. And if we are being looked at by an advanced culture, believe me, they're going, yeah, they're done. They're stupid. They're just stupid.
At the very least, that kind of behavior is just stagnant. It's not getting worse, because is that any different than the Irish mob or the Italian mob or the Russian mob or any of these mobs that come over here? Whenever people come into a new country, they tend to stick together, they tend to organize, and then do crime. Like that just seems to be what we do.
Yeah, but I think that there is a bigger globalization or global drive to that because you listen to
I think what you're saying, like, in a way, is like we're arguing the wrong points. Like Bill Maher is constantly in arguments over whether or not he's anti-Muslim, right, in his rhetoric and yada yada, and he's chastising liberals for giving Muslims a pass on sexist atrocities and so forth. But really, like, to me, these are not the argument. Like, what happened to the argument that religion is just supposed to go away once we evolve past
Right, exactly.
Why are we arguing within the context of the religion?
When are we going to outgrow it? Yes.
Right, yeah. When do we outgrow it?
You know, I mean, isn't it time at this point in history, isn't it time to kind of at least say, I'm putting foolish things away, but if you wish to believe some foolish thing, so be your foolish belief.
Right, because a liberal argument is always like, we have to, we've got to respect that. Not everything that Muslims do is bad, and Christians did some of the same stuff back when.
Absolutely.
And then Bill Maher says, well, yeah, but that was in the 17th century. And it's like, yeah, but these are all the wrong arguments. It's not, they've got good qualities and bad qualities. Yes, every religion, every belief system has good qualities and bad qualities. Can we stop with the belief systems already?
Can we stop with it as a whole? Exactly. But it's like, okay, if you wish to believe this foolish thing, that's fine. But the problem comes in is when your foolish thing becomes something that affects my world. You know, that's when I have a problem with it. This is being pushed to an incredible degree these days. That everyone wants to, I mean, look at the brouhaha over red coffee cups from Starbucks for Christmas, for God's sakes. What was that crap about? And who cares? You know? Right down to the most recent visit from the president of Iran when they covered up statues in Italy because they were bare-chested. I mean, really, what are we doing? What is that for? Haven't we moved past this? And the answer is no, we haven't moved past it. In answer to your question, why are we talking about this? Because this is the thing to talk about now, is what's politically correct and what's not. And this is the reason that Trump, the moron, is gaining all these supporters and ground, in a political field full of dolts. This is the reason he gains ground, is because he doesn't want to play any of the political correct stuff. He knows how sick people are of it. And so he's just feeding into that. And he's making it okay to be a racist. It's a release for people. Are they going to vote for him? This is the other point of stupidity. I mean, again, here's evidence of stupid. Every time you turn on the radio, you can't help but hear Trump. You can't help but hear the next Republican debate. I think I'm pretty safe in saying this. They're not getting in the White House, so who cares? Am I wrong? Am I high?
Well, no, but that's the good news, is that, yeah, it's stupid on this small primary level, but in the general election, there are enough intelligent people that that care, that no, none of those guys would ever get into the White House.
Yeah.
So that's good news,
yeah.
At least. But you know, it's bad when Anne Frank's granddaughter says Trump reminds her of Hitler in his rhetoric. Right. I mean, how bad can it get?
Right.
Anne Frank's granddaughter.
I mean, you know, this is, I cannot believe the absurdity of just this election and the flow of how things have gone. And I'm only using this as one example. There are a million different examples of this. And the Diane Rehm show on NPR, which I listen to just about every day, they were talking about that Trump really packs them in at the rallies. And when he wasn't going to be on the Fox debate, he touted that their numbers will not survive what the other ones did when I was present. So their numbers of watchers are going to go down. It's not going to, the ratings are going to be terrible for this because I'm not there. And I'm confused why NPR is reporting this as some kind of fact when, and I literally, I think I posted on their Facebook page or I sent an email and I said, just because people attend, watch a debate or attend a rally does not mean they're voting for this. You do understand that, don't you? Like, these people are going to these rallies for entertainment. This is like worldwide wrestling. You know, it's stupid. You know it's stupid, but you go anyway because it's fun to watch. And again, just because people don't watch the debate or watch the debate is no sign that it's because of you and they're going to vote for you. It means they just want to see what dumb thing you're going to do next. That's what it's all about. And I was irritated that NPR, of all places, wasn't saying this. And thank God somebody called in and said, look, I went to a Trump rally. I have no intention of voting for the man, but it's a famous guy, and I wanted to see what dumb thing might happen. I was like, yes, thank you. You know, so there are, I mean, I think it's the way that this one dumb thing is being reported as fact. It's just astounding to me how backwards that it seems to be. And these people on these media panels, I'm not even talking about Fox News because that's not even a news network, but CNN, MSNBC, take your pick. Otherwise, very intelligent people are buying into this hokum. And I just go, we are getting dumb. Like, what is this stupid
Are we getting
about?
dumb or are we getting aggressive?
Well, I think the two go hand in hand. You know, I do. It's just. I mean,
Trump isn't dumb, right? Like he's not. Clearly, he knows how to play the media and be a billionaire and all of that. Mm-hmm. So these people are, they're able to hold jobs and conversations and stuff. Right. They're not dumb in that way. You know what I mean? They're not uneducated. How about that? They're not uneducated.
Well, I think here's the thing. I think you can be a very rich person at birth, and I think dad can lend you a couple of million to get started, and you surround yourself with amazing people to make you richer. That's what business people do when they are a trust fund baby. They surround themselves with people who are excellent at their jobs because they have the money to pay for those people. And those people are the ones that make you your fortune. I think, you have to make an executive call here and there based upon what? Your experience? What experience? You're a trust fund kid. You've gone to an Ivy League school, what have you. Okay, great. Does that make you a genius? I don't think so. And I've met enough millionaires and I've worked for enough millionaires to know these are not exceptional people. I hate to say it that way. These are not exceptional people. They surround themselves with exceptional people.
Yeah. No, what I mean, never thought I'd be picking on liberals so much, but the liberal fallacy of if we just educate people, mm-hmm. That's all we need to do. I mean, that used to be the mantra through the 80s and 90s. If we could just educate the people, they'll never vote against their own interest. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't matter how much educating you give, people vote against their own interest because they see the guy on TV who's rich and famous going, vote for me. And that guy also, like you said, goes to an Ivy League school. Doesn't make him a genius, but I'm saying it means that he's been run through an educational system. It's not just a bunch of yokels.
Well, and these people lie,
in a way, this gets to your point of, are we getting dumber? Regardless of education, is there something in the species or the culture that is why coming to death?
Yes, the internet. I think the internet is almost solely responsible for the proliferation of dumbness. Yeah, I'll say that flatly.
I think Tyler would agree with you.
Yeah, I think the internet as a whole has made people really stupid. I mean, and I'm writing an article for disinformation.com right now, disinfo.com, about that very thing, about, the internet and how it is in the paranormal arena, because that's what I have to write about on there. This is proliferated dumbness in the parapsychological interests, UFOs, aliens, and ghosts, and ESP, and all of that. That's become just ridiculously stupid. You can always use the paranormal for a barometer. The dumber it gets, be careful, because the populace is going to descend into dumbness along with it. It's not a dragger. It just precipitates everything. And the internet has truly been the incubator for some of the dumbest people that I've ever seen, and this is the reason why, because dumb people seek out other dumb people to correct and or hone their dumbness. I've seen this with my own eyes. They get the independent validation of their stupid virtue through other people's stupid. And when you all band together as stupid people, you become a group. You become
a religion.
You become climate change deniers, or you become anti-vaxxers, or you become, 9/11 was an inside job people and all this crap. This is what you get. You get people who validate each other. And is that any different from, I'm strictly using this as an example because I know it to be true. I'm not saying this to be mean in any way, shape, or form, but to become like a KGRA, where at KGRA, a lot of the people who get interviewed are the people on the network. That used to be the running joke. They all interview each other. That's what that is. It's a big circle jerk. Is that I've got this mysterious sounds happening here from the sky. Can you hear that or no?
Is that the trumpet of God?
That's yeah. It's actually the train going by. This is it's people, and this is why the paranormal fields are so botched right now, is because, I think it was you that sent somebody sent a video, and I said, yeah, it's more douchebags with bad hair in scroll t-shirts, saying dumb things with their dumb mouths about the paranormal.
Yeah.
And this is really what it boils down to. There is an entire culture of really dumb people. I have interacted with them. They are dumb beyond all comprehension. I kid you not. Dumb. Don't know what simple terms mean. Like, I don't know. Things like due diligence. When you talk about doing some due diligence, they'll be quick to tell you there's no due diligence here. Obviously, because they don't know what it means. You talk about a double-blind study with some of these people. Well, I've done my double-blind study. My friend used it and I used it. No, shut up. Shut up.
Well, the thing is, okay, so
and the thing is, when you come in, this was the truly terrifying part of my interaction with them. When I came into the conversation and I asked for double-blind, did you do a double-blind study? Well, yeah, we've done this. Well, no, that's not double-blind study. What that is this, and I explain it out, how they could do one really easily. And do you know the first thing that came back out of that conversation and from the crowd was, check out the big brain on Brad. Now, what's that sound like? That sounds like, you talk like a fag. That sounds like idiocracy, right? Idiocracy is a fact these days. And it's chilling to see the stupid proliferate like it is, because it's, idiocracy was not supposed to be a documentary.
Well, part of the problem of the internet, the curse of the internet, which of course in this culture is certainly put on a pedestal, is the cult of personality. If you can open your mouth, you can gather following. And like you said, if you're dumb, you're going to gather dumb people and they're all going to, so facts are out the window to begin with. That these people are claiming to be doing anything other than cult of personality is a fallacy. But they're too dumb to know that. And so if you were to call them out on it, they would just get angry and say, "No, why come we're as deep as you? You're a snob."
Right.
And no, but that's not even what you're doing. Like, that's not what your show is, or that's not what your group is about. It's about socializing, and it's about
absolutely
you being heard and being famous.
Mm-hmm.
But that's all it is. It's all air. It's all style and no substance, and that style isn't even stylish. It's just stupid. Right.
And I can tell you this right now: if you want to see what a bad paranormal research group looks like, go to their website. If it's a plain Jane website with little to no photographs of the team on it and a lot of information, chances are they're probably pretty decent. But if you go to most of these, it's a slick logo with some kind of pseudo movie poster look to it. I hate to say it, but the group that the girl we interviewed twice, that her and her husband were part of, I can't even remember her name.
Yeah,
That's
I know
terrible.
who you're talking about.
But I looked at that and I'm like, yeah, these people are not serious because the front homepage looks like a movie poster. They're trying to be something, and that doesn't work. It's not about you.
So then there are at least two issues here that we've identified. One is that cult of personality thing, the wanting to be famous, and everything else is a lie. But then the other thing is people who really do think that they're doing research because they're using the internet, and they don't understand the difference between, say, like a George Hansen who sits down and does scholarly work and looking at blogs. Or the difference between blogging and an actual newspaper reporter.
Right.
Like these lines have been so blurred just because the person reading these things isn't schooled in the difference. And so they think that these are of equal weight. And Tyler had talked about this on The Experience this week about his own students who, this is grad school for med school. Think about how scary this is, where they're just like, well, I'll just look it up on my iPhone. Do you know the answer to this? They're asking him, do you have the answer to this? And Tyler's like, well, no. It's actually, you're supposed to come up with the answer to it. Well, I'll just look it up on my phone. And Tyler's answer to that is, well, you can do that. But the problem is, what are you going to do when a patient comes to you and asks you, and, you don't know? You're going to go look it up on the internet. There's a problem here where people don't, just think that this information is cluttering up their brains. It's all in the net anyway. I'll get to it as I need it. And it's like, that's not only does that not work in the real world, but how do you ever have any sort of insight or aha moment of your own if you don't have a bunch of these facts or theories or whatever to juggle in your head? You know what I mean? Like if you're just one at a time going to pick them up as they occur, then are you a robot? Like, who needs you? Why not just have the internet at that point? Why not just go on WebMD? You're never going to discover anything on your own. I don't know. It just seems like there are several interrelated problems here. But in terms of ufology or paranormal research, what do you think is the bigger problem? Do you think it's that people think that they're doing the work, but they don't know the difference between having a degree in something and being a scientist and looking stuff up on the internet, researcher versus armchair researcher? Or do you think that the bigger problem is that we don't even get to that question anyway, because it's all about how do I look? How many likes do I have? Is this going to get me on TV? Is this going to get me a following? Have we just so surpassed the research aspect of it that it's all about why come I can't have TV show?
Yes. Yeah. I think the other half of it is like Tyler, where he's training the next generation of doctors, right? So I remember like back when I was a little kid and I would go to the doctor, as a kid, you ask those questions like, why did you want to be a doctor? And they would say things like, I wanted to help sick people. My grandmother was really a sick person, and, I watched her fight with her health, and I wanted to try and do something to make other people not have to suffer like that. And I've heard throughout the years, I've heard other doctors say similar things as that, like something in their life pushed them to want to help people because of some person that they knew that suffered horribly from some malady that they couldn't help with. And I think if you did a study of, why are people wanting to become doctors today? It's, number one would be money. I want money. I want to make a lot of money. and probably number two would be that that there's always the potential that I could create some kind of product, or that I could have some kind of show like Dr. Oz or something like that, like fame being somebody important. I think those would be the two most sought after, or would be the two most frequent answers that you would get. But yeah, I do think it's all about, and it's obvious right down to the smallest level. That's the part that really irritates me the most. It's like, even at the smallest level, you and I have met people in the paranormal fields that are just so backwards, it's hysterical. And yet they're writing a book, and I'm like,
yeah, I mean, this is the other thing is that it works to some degree if you're pretty, but don't know anything, or whatever, or if you're just nice to everybody and you keep saying "my best friend" about everybody, or inserting quotes about Da Vinci, into your posts. So it's like, look at me and Da Vinci. It seems to work because there are enough idiots out there who, if you're just nice to them or you just look good, they'll be like, that was the most amazing thing I've ever read. Right. And then you get a book and they're like, this book is really great. But could you ever articulate what is great about that book? Or would that just be met with shut up? Stop attacking him.
Shut up.
Why come you're attacking? Well, no, I'm just asking what was great about it.
And I should say this before.
Words. He said words.
I should say this
my friend.
Before anybody points it out or says something about it. Believe me, I am no goddamn Einstein. But I know enough that when, say, Carly
know you're not
Fiorina,
Einstein.
Well, yeah. That when Carly Fiorina says that there was a baby laying there with its heart beating out of its chest, and they were trying to think of how they could keep it alive to harvest the brain and all. When she's talking about the legs kicking on video, I was smart enough to know, no, see, that's lying. Evidence of dumbness in society happens on a grand scale. A woman went on TV and lied. And then when she was called out on that lie, she aggressively defended that lie with more lies. And these were demonstrable lies. Now, why in the world is this not being called out ad nauseum to this day? Why? That's the part that doesn't make sense to me. When I hear people at work say, I really like that Carly Fiorina. Or I really like Marco Rubio, I'm sorry, what do you like? I don't know. It just
Well, let's go to the other side here for 1 second, because Hillary Clinton, I thought the whole email thing was nonsense. And I still think it's just, Republicans are out to get Clintons 6 ways from Sunday. If they got something, they got you for something, as Public Enemy would say.
Sure.
But I think they do have something. I think the email where she says, oh, just send me the top secret information.
Yeah.
Take out the words top secret and just send it to me on my server. I think that is a jailable offense. And her argument is, well, it never happened. And these things that they're now classifying as top secret, they're classifying after the fact. I wish they'd release those too.
Right.
But there's a little something called intent.
Right.
If
and
you,
common sense, too.
Well, common sense, but I mean, if you try to buy drugs from an FBI agent, even if you don't know, or if you ever see these Dateline things where these To Catch a Predator, and the predator goes by the house, he's already talked to the woman. The girl, the woman pretending to be a little girl, and he's going by the house to molest her. And for some reason, he gets cold feet and tries to drive away. The police are still going to block him and take him in because he had the intent. She had the intent. It doesn't matter whether the faxes went through or not that were top secret. She said, it's fine by me that they do.
Right.
That's not something?
Right.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
A very political paratopia.
Well, I mean, but it speaks to dumbness. I mean, again, it's just, and I'm not saying the woman's dumb. I mean, can you tell that Paratopia is definitely a Sanders program? That's right.
Bernie Sanders.
I mean, it sounds crazy to me that every time we talk about what's wrong with monetary things in this country, we talk about it's the big banks. The big banks caused the Wall Street, destruction that led to our recession that just about crippled this country, or did cripple this country. And, over in other countries, they jailed people for this. They put them in prison. We bailed them out with our money after they screwed us. Well, guess what? Now those people are giving Clinton money, like to her campaign.
Well, not only that, but we worship them. I mean, Trump didn't do that, but he's a billionaire. It's like we want a business person in there.
Well, yeah,
and
right.
Michael Bloomberg is threatening to get into the race. If Bernie wins, I'm going to get into the race. It's like, yeah, because the answer to too many billionaires is more billionaires running the country.
Right. And I mean, I hate to say it, but when it comes to, I think, and this is just from my standpoint, I think that people, once they take a look at what Sanders has to say and his track record that is visible throughout history here, the guy has not wavered one iota on what he has tried to do with his political career. And I by no means am saying that it's going to be an easy road if he gets in office. I don't say that at all. But I think things will dramatically change. But it won't be an easy change.
Well, I think
but I think it's a necessary change.
You're telling me many moons ago that you think that, humanity needs to slow step its way to evolution. Mm-hmm. And part of that is culturally. Sanders would be a step in that direction. And I think if he does not get in, because like you said, the right wing, that's not happening. So it's either him or Clinton are going to be president.
Right. And
if Hillary Clinton gets in, it's going to be this slow, just like she said, she wants to continue what Obama's doing, right? Which is middle of the road stuff, peppered with liberal stuff. That is going to get gridlocked because people hate her because, one, she's a woman, and two, she's a Clinton. Like, these are right-wing issues. And why do they hate Clinton so much? Well, because he stole their Republican platform. 3 strikes, you're out, welfare queens, privatizing prisons, NAFTA, GATT, all these things were Republican dreams that Bill Clinton said, I'll take those.
Right.
So they've hated him ever since.
Right.
And this is why we've been pushed to the right. It's actually Bill Clinton is the one who co-opted the Democratic Party and pushed us to the right of center and pushed everyone on the right to so that is why things have gotten dumber since the 90s. It's actually Bill Clinton's fault. So there you go. However, so these are our choices. And I think, like, if Bernie Sanders gets in and people work with him, then this country is going to change, and that will have ramifications for the world in a radical liberal way. If he gets in and they don't work with him, then we're screwed. Like, I don't like, if he gets in and banks are like, you know what, we're just going to pull out of the economy altogether and go to other countries. Like, I think it would be that radical of a thing where, because he's saying to go after Wall Street. Well, what if Wall Street's reaction is, great, then we're just going to tank everything. See ya. Take our money and run.
Right.
It could go either way. And either way, it is what this place needs. Radical reform, radical change.
Right.
And if he is successful at all, it's because his whole campaign is about the people. It's not, Bernie Sanders, can do this. He knows he can't. What he's saying is, yes, they will try to gridlock me. And that's why, basically, with every policy decision, I'm going to need the people to rise up with me and demand it.
Right.
Or else it's not going to get done. So there's either going to be a real by the people, for the people country that happens as a result, or the gutting of the system, because the system is poison, I guess is what I'm getting at. Right now, the system is poison, and so it's going to have to change one way or the other. Either it dies, it kills itself, or it takes the antidote.
it tickles me when I hear, I mean, we've had a Congress now that's, I mean, some of these Congress people and senators have come out and said flatly, oh yeah, we went against Obama because he was black and because he was intelligent and because we were just told to go against Obama no matter what. So he wasn't getting anything through. That's the end of that. Now, I think that, if something like that were to, this is often what I hear from people when I talk about Sanders. They say, well, he's never getting anything through. It's no point to even getting him in office because he's going to be just like Obama. He's not going to be able to get anything through. If you think for 1 second, if you watch enough of the video stuff from C-SPAN where he called out the Wall Street bankers and Greenspan and all these people, like by name, pointed his finger at him, said, you made an error? You made an error? Blah, blah, blah. If you think for a second that if people or senators, congressmen, they vote down or they vote out or they do what they do to stalemate everything, if you think for a second that he's not going to point a finger at them publicly and shame them, I mean, please, this will be, I bet you, this guy's MO is if you don't want to do what's right and what the American people see as being the right move to make, we're going to shame you into making that right move because it's the right move. A equals B, A plus B equals C. It'll be that obvious a thing. I think, like you say, I think he's wanting to do the will of what we as a nation collectively want to see happen. I don't think we're talking about the uber rich people. We're not talking about them because damned if I care what they want. It's going to be one of those things where I think he is going to fight back, but I don't think it's going to be as cool and neat as Obama has done, which is to say that he hasn't directly confronted people on the floor and said, you did this, blah, blah, blah. He's just doing his executive orders now because he has nothing to run for. There's no place to go. He's finishing out, but he's getting these things done. They call him what a ninth inning president or what have you. I think Sanders will be dramatically different in how he runs or partakes of a presidency, which I think is high time that it's happened. So, I mean, that alone, I think, is going to be a non-stumbling block for him because I think he's going to point it out.
So, how do you square that with idiocracy? Because if he wins, that means
if he wins, that means there is hope. Yes, yes, and I think it's amazing to me that that young people are really enthused about him. It's not just young people who are enthused about him, although that's what you hear on the news a lot. That his young voter base is really big and really strong and really proactive, and that's true. But me as a nearing middle-aged guy, I am uber excited about him. I contribute to his campaign monthly, and I've never done that ever for any candidate ever. But what he says and the way he approaches things is so refreshing. It's so no nonsense. It's what needs to happen for us to survive as a country. That I really believe that dumb may be one thing, and yes, I know people who are voting Trump. Yes, I have told them they are idiots. I mean, I just, and you know what is odd about that? The majority of them are women. That really is confusing. That is really confusing. And remember, when you're voting with a party that wants to, remove women's rights and doesn't want equal pay for women and all this, despite what you might hear, this is not what they want. So you're voting against your own sex, which makes no sense to me at all. But you're voting for a guy who is obviously, misogynistic and, a womanizer, obviously. It makes no sense to me at all. And there's nothing, you can't talk sense to these people. But I like to think that obviousness and sincerity does trump stupid. You know, I like to think that people can recognize that. Like, I like what he says. You know, a friend of mine that I used to work with, when I first mentioned Bernie Sanders to him, he goes, "Yeah, but he's a socialist, and I'm not sure about that." And I said, "What are you not sure about? You know, tell me what problem you have with him being a socialist, a democratic socialist. What is the problem with that?" "Well, I'm not sure." I said, "Explain to me what a democratic socialist is. What does that mean?" "Well, I don't know. It might have something to do with communism, and I'm just not down with that." I'm like, "No, it doesn't." And I would send a video forth, by a guy who actively is explaining this in lecture to young people about what is it like, knowing that Social Security is a socialist thing. The military is a socialist thing. There's a lot of things that are already of a democratic socialist nature in this country, and most of them are good things. So the fact that this term has been blackened and slapped on him like it's, for Trump to say communist, some communist, whatever. That's just showing stupid again.
Well, see, and the thing is, Bernie owns it. He's like, "That's right. I am socialist. That's right."
Mm-hmm.
If he shied away from it, that would be
right.
See, again, it's like if he shied away from it, everyone's looking for a gotcha thing, that has nothing to do with the policies. It's just, how can I expose, like a bully, some sort of
right.
Ego wound, something that people will fear. It's like, could you get him on policy, please? No, you can't.
Well, exactly. No, you can't. You can't. This goes, we need to get out of this conversation, but this goes to the bigger notion of the de-evolution of intelligence. The war on science is real. Just this week, and I don't know how prevalent this is. Excuse me. I don't know how prevalent this is, but I'm hearing an awful lot about flat Earth theorists. Oh my God.
Yeah, but aren't
really?
they like Tila Tequila and some other,
Yeah, I don't care who they are. That's just dumb.
But I'm saying they are just dumb.
Well, and that may be true, but the very fact that people are walking around breathing up good air that think thoughts like that is beyond the pale of dumb.
Well, but here's what I don't get about that brand of dumb, which is, so it's a conspiracy that NASA's keeping from you. Why would they care? Like, why would you think that anyone would have a conspiracy that about the world, the shape of the Earth?
Because everything's a conspiracy, right?
So do you think that, if it turns out that the country at large is not, idiocracy, that idiocracy is a vocal minority, although a large minority, a minority nonetheless, do you think that would hold for ufology and the paranormal, or do you think that idiocracy actually does rule the day here?
Can you repeat the question?
Bernie Sanders gets elected. That's proof that idiocracy is a vocal minority, because the majority actually voted in the smart guy in the room. Does that reflect on how we complain about ufology and paranormal? Do you think if we were to have a poll to say, who do you think is the greatest ufologist of all, do you think it would be Jacques Vallée, or do you think it would be Stephen Greer?
I think just like it precedes culture, I think that it also will follow culture, but it takes a really long time for that to happen. It seems like any radical reconceptual idea in the paranormal takes as long as a super tanker turns around. It's painfully slow. You take something like the Roswell slides, and you take Malson's involvement in that. I think at this point, it's pretty safe to say that he has tarnished his reputation beyond all comprehension. I think that anyone who would say, oh, I think that guy's on the level, I think he's just a little flaky on this slides thing, and give that a pass, that's not somebody that I'm ever going to communicate with. But I really believe that those people who put faith in someone like him, I think they are now a minority. I really do believe that most people recognize that all for what it is. What disappointed me about that is that it focused solely, the point of that sword came down squarely on him. Now, as the facilitator of the event, I understand why. But what I'm disappointed in is that it didn't fall upon other people even harder. Carey, Schmidt, Dolan, and people will scoff at me saying Dolan, but I'm telling you, this is a guy who went, didn't see the slides, decided to lend his name to the event and go and speak there and was on the stage with the rest of them. Really? Really? I think it should have fallen not equally as hard across the board. I don't think Rich should have been crucified for it, but I think he didn't really get enough grief for it. I think he got the pass because he's a likable guy, because he's a smart guy.
I saw people taking it to him.
Well, yours truly being one of them. But I think that it quickly passed. It was quickly subdued. Carey and Schmidt got more of it. Masson got the brunt of it. I just think that should have been more evenly distributed. But I think the two of them have tarnished themselves beyond a belief. Now, that said, both of them are still doing, and Masson is still being asked to come and speak places. Carey and Schmidt are still being asked to come and speak places. It made no slowdown in anyone's ufological career, apparently.
Well, this is the thing I didn't get about that, because in a way, I looked at it the other way. The people who were the skeptics within ufology who were exposing this, and you were part of that group for a little while. Yeah. But like you had said, you left that group because, they're still arguing about it. Why haven't they focused on anything else? And so I think, to me, it's a sign that people do want or enough people want a change. They want to hold people accountable, but they're not smart enough or something's getting in the way where they're not, A, contributing anything other than being a lynch mob, but B, they're not, they're solely focused on the one thing. Why aren't they trying to revitalize and revamp the entire scene?
Well, it's the same. Yeah, we've already answered that question, but in a different forum. The answer to that is because it's still garnering them attention. There was a point in the group where the thing had been beaten to death. I mean, literally beaten to death. And someone was asked to come on a program and talk about it. And I said, what more can you possibly say? What more is there to possibly talk about? This has been said 9 ways from Sunday. Now, after 4 weeks, you want to come back to this again? Why? Why would you keep harping on this? This is a dead horse. Let's move on to something else. You're wasting time.
And the thing is, the whole thing is a dead horse, right? It's not coming. It's not going to resurrect itself. Jacobs, we flogged Jacobs, and if we keep talking about him, it is beating a dead horse. But Jacobs is now going to be at this international UFO conference, Congress or whatever.
Right.
He's going to be not just speaking, but giving lessons in how to do hypnosis. Mm-hmm. Why aren't these people up in arms about this? Why isn't anyone boycotting, talking to the promoters, anything? I mean, you and I can talk about it, and then it's just that's just those guys again. But whereas the Roswell slides thing will disappear or has disappeared, and that's therefore a dead horse, David Jacobs is an undead horse.
Oh, yeah.
And he needs the metaphorical bullet to the I'm not being literal head. So why aren't people, those Roswell slides people, up in arms about a guy like him?
I think no matter how many times that I get into the discussion about hypnosis bad, I always get the same kind of pushback. What else are we going to do to study this? How else are we going to get at this problem Does that mean that we have to throw out everything that we know thus far about the experience? Does that mean every Bud Hopkins book I have is junk? And the answer to all that is yeah. That's not something anybody wants to hear. And I think by and large, I'll tell you the God's honest truth, when it comes to people that I know within the Roswell Slides group who have a genuine interest in this phenomena, they are inherently disinterested in the experiencer stuff as a whole. Whether it's right, wrong, somebody doing right by people or wrong by people, it doesn't matter. When it comes to the experiencer phenomena, they're out. And they're out because it's too experiential. There's nothing we can do with it. We can't qualify it. There's nothing that can happen in this. There's nothing being pushed forward. It's a useless field to become involved with, and it's a hornet's nest. That's by and large what I hear anytime something gets brought up about that. I was, I think, I'm not sure, I don't think it was in that group, but I saw somebody had put a post up about Whitley Strieber and Jeff Kripal's book that's coming out. And I remarked, I said, anything that Kripal has written in the past two books, if you've read them, to me is some of the most forward-thinking stuff to come out of or to come at the paranormal fields in decades. And I believe that is true. I mean, the guy is a really original thinker and puts forth some really plausible, followable, easy to understand theories about why things happen in the way that they do and how art and this creative process kind of feeds into this. And it, by the way, his stuff actually fits rather nicely into Project Core, which is why I sent it to him for review. Because the creative people are the majority of people who experience paranormal phenomena. There's a reason for that, and I think he hits upon it really nicely. I was surprised that my post saying this got a number of likes from people that I didn't expect to get likes from when talking about anything related to Whitley Strieber. So I found that to be slightly refreshing. So maybe people are going to become interested again in the experience of a paranormal event, experiencing that, less about evidence, more about experience. Maybe the interest in that is coming around again.
Although I did see, I don't know if it was that post or another one, but I did see a post about the book where Rich Reynolds had chimed in and said, well, if Strieber's involved, then I'm out. I can't pay attention to any of this. And I was very tempted to write in, I don't understand where Rich Reynolds gets off being sanctimonious when everything he writes is to get a reaction from people.
Yeah.
So that's what he writes. So why is he sanctimonious about another writer? Like, what leg does he have to stand on?
I don't know. I have, Mom
am I wrong about that? I mean,
no, you're not wrong.
Whether he's got good things to say or bad things to say, he does things just to provoke people, just to get them to look at his blog for 5 seconds.
I can make the statement that that a lot of the provoking, when you respond to the provoking in a way that at least in my experience, in any way it feels like you're correcting him, then you're done. He doesn't want anything more to do with you, which is what happened with me. We had a discussion about the trickster thing, and I corrected him. I said, no, actually, I think we're talking about two separate things, but this, that, and the other. And, basically I got told that I was calling him a liar. And I mean, it was just crazy. And none of it true. I just said what I knew about the trickster theory. And he's got a very, much more of a literary interpretation of that phenomena, in my opinion, than a Hansen interpretation. And that was the end of it. But, I read his blog for a number of years and communicated with him on a friendly basis for a good while. And it really came quite out of nowhere. I felt like some of these posts were put in strictly to, poke at me and another guy who was a frequenter of the blog. We both kind of got roped into that discussion. But hey, whatever, No, I don't think enough people care about the people like that. I don't think enough people really care. I think when you get right down to it, the Kripal-Strieber book may be something that reinvigorates the interest, not only in the experiencer phenomena, but in terms of trying to connect the various phenomena together, or trying to see the connective tissues between those, which is something you and I have always been really keen on.
Well, the interesting thing is it's actually getting positive mainstream reviews.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So this could be, the timing of this with the X-Files and the Alien Hunters Strieber series coming out on Sci-Fi in April couldn't be better. I mean, this might be, the shot in the arm that the mainstream needs. Because in a way, this would be kind of like what we've always dreamed of doing. It's like, what if the X-Files reboot reinvigorates some notion of investigating this? And then what if the book people turn to that's getting all the good reviews is this book, and this book is not reflecting what's in the X-Files, it's reflecting the deeper questions. I mean, that would be great.
No? I understand what you're saying. It's just, I remember being deep in the trenches when the first X-Files stuff came out, and that to me was the beginning of the stupid starting to percolate to the surface. That was when I first started seeing that amalgamation of the literature surrounding the phenomena itself that had been around for years and years, and then the pop culture kind of seeping in. In other words, people, when I was running chat rooms for sightings and for Periscope and all of that, I would have people come in and talk about a sighting that they had. And people in earnest, in response to hearing about a sighting, and then that followed up by some strange car or activity going on in the area, people would ask in all seriousness, well, did you see a guy smoking a cigarette anywhere? I mean, this was said in all honesty, talking about the cigarette smoke cancer man and other memes related to the X-Files were always questioned or injected here and there. And that to me was the beginning of that. So I got a real iffy feeling about the X-Files doing anything positive. Maybe you're right. It could have the opposite effect now. I don't know. My fear is that, I think right now, the real dumb factor of people who want to be researchers in a paranormal field, I think right now the ghost crowd definitely has more than its fair share of dopes. We do too on the UFO side of things, but I think it's to a much lesser degree. I think that there is just so many backwards ass groups out there in the ghost realm that I think you couldn't even begin to come up with a number. I think when it comes to the UFO crowd, it's peppered throughout and to different degrees of crazy or delusional. I'm hoping that the X-Files doesn't inject itself in such a way that it attracts that kind of stupid that the ghost field has into this. Because we've got enough, I just hope that it doesn't make, how we've said before that the ghost phenomena is something that you can go to a location like you and I did with Gettysburg, where there is reported phenomena going on, and we can go there and possibly experience that. Whereas a UFO hotspot or wave, it's like hit or miss. It's so transient that your odds on not getting anything are at a much higher level than you would assume would happen in a ghost field. What I fear is that the X-Files may in part bring researchers to this field that will make the UFO phenomena appear to be as frequent or as accessible as the ghost phenomena is. You follow that?
Yeah.
That's what I fear. And the sad part about that is that in line with Jeff Kripal's thinking about this phenomena, it may actually be the phenomena. If that makes any sense at all.
How does Kripal fit in with Hansen? Do they complement each other?
Yeah, I think that. The very way that Kripal kind of elicits the thought that the creative process can manifest some of these phenomena in very unexpected ways, would certainly point towards, from the outward picture of someone looking at the experiencer or the artist or the writer writing or creating their art and then reporting this experience, that would be seen from the outside as a marginal aspect. In other words, you're immediately marginalized because you're a creative type. Well, we know how flighty and fantasy prone those people are. So that fits in. The creative process itself is an anti-structural type of activity. Yeah, I mean, it kind of commingles in spots. I'm not sure how George actually feels about what Kripal has written. But I'll ask George next time I talk to him. To me, it dovetails kind of nicely into that. I think George is still one of the bigger globes of influence, or explaining not the whys, but the things that surround it. I still think that encompasses the Kripal sphere of thought. So, yeah, it fits. It works together to me. But I'm unsure what Kripal's coming out with Strieber. Like, what is that going to be about? Authors of the Impossible and Mutants and Mystics were the first two books that I read from Dr. Kripal, and I interviewed him about Authors of the Impossible. So that's the one that I read first, and it's a brilliant book, and it's thought provoking. The question is what's coming now with this book. That's what I'm interested in. I can't wait for that book. So,
yeah, well, I think, maybe this is to give us a little bit of hope away from the idiocracy, is between this and Jacques Vallée headlining the otherwise terrifying International Congress, UFO Congress.
Yeah.
And, with the alien Roswell slides, the fact that was nipped in the bud so quickly, and even though, however misguided they may be now, the people doing all of that genuinely want to see some things changed, at least. Don't want it all to be idiocracy.
Yeah. Well, I think at this point they have completely moved away from it. I don't think there's any more real discussion going on about that. I think they did put it to bed quickly. It's just, to me, it's like, it was a done deal from the time they said, hey, we have slides of an alien body. So that's where I came from, was like, well, that's just absurd. Right. That's ridiculous on the face of it. Why would you need to go to this absurd length and then why would you continue on with it? And that's kind of where I just said, okay, I'm done. I got invited to another group that was re-examining the Ramey memo, which is the series of photographs with Ramey and Marcel and the alleged crash to be from Roswell. There is a paper that he's holding in his hand, and someone has uber scanned these photographs and they're trying to decipher what the message says that he's holding in his hand. And that is every bit as absurd as it sounds, because I asked for, like, give me the latest and greatest scans, and I got them. And I looked at them and I'm like, apparently some man is out there who has done photographic work to these to make it to essentially, I say to make it look like it says. I don't know if he altered them or not, but he's got lines deciphered, which I don't necessarily agree with, that say things like, the victims of the crash or victims of the wreck and all this kind of stuff. Like there's words that can be made out. I can say unequivocally there is no way you're making out any word 100% from those scans. It's ridiculous.
Weren't those scans? Isn't that from a long time ago?
A very long time ago. I was involved with that, more than 10 years ago, probably. I started looking at those, and I'm like, this is ridiculous. There's nothing that can be gleaned from these. I know the difference between clearing something up and altering it. And to me, unless you're going to alter it, you are not going to make any kind of reasonable determination as to what those letters say. They are too far gone. The medium could not possibly capture these characters in any sort of quality to be able to be deciphered through a scan of a photograph taken in 1947. It's crazy absurd.
Did you interact with that guy?
With the man when I interacted with him the first time, that was when he was first undertaking this. So I didn't I saw bits and pieces that he made out an A and a V and a C.
Well, I'm just wondering, do you get the sense that he's a nonsense artist, or do you think that he legitimately...
No, I think he legitimately believes what he's doing. Yes, I do. But I know how easily it can happen that you can go into a photograph to look at what you think you want to see, or what you think you can decipher, and to say, well, that grouping of pixels there is probably an artifact of JPEG compression, so I can probably remove that. And the answer is, when you remove that, in quotes, that's alteration. You're altering the letters. You're altering the outcome, and that's the end of the story. With the Roswell slides, it was very easy to deblur that plaque and to see that it said mummified body of a child, etc. That was easy to do. That was a no-brainer. You get the right algorithm, boom, it unlocks, it shows you what it says. There's no guesswork involved with that. When it comes to this, you're starting out with, I'm not kidding, literally blobs of pixels. And I'm like, I took one look at it and I said, the only thing that I can think to do is a lot of channel specific stuff. It would be very involved. I took one small portion of the letters that I saw. I grouped them together and I ran these channel specific processes on it. I said, if I don't get something with this, it's not happening. And anything past that is a complete waste of my time, and I'm not into wasting time. I did these operations. I got nothing discernible. Could I alter them and get something? Yeah, probably. But that's not research. That's that's art at that point. And I'm not into, making art for ufology in that kind of way. That's just nonsense. I think it's at best, it's a ink blot test to try and decipher it. And so I made a statement to the group and I said, look, I've been doing what I do for a living for going on 30 years this year. I'm looking at this. I've run every process I know. I'm not seeing this. This is just not happening. I think this is a complete waste of time until such time as new technology comes along that can work its magic on these things to be able to pick out letters that work. And I'll tell you how far I went. And you listeners can check this out because it's a really neat place. It's called whatthefont.com. And when you go there, it'll identify fonts. So if you have like an E from a really cool font set that you have, but you don't know what the name of it is, and you just see it on a web page, you can lift it, insert it, match it to an E, then hit, for it to decipher, and it will, 9 times out of 10, it'll give you what font that E is based on its structure. I made the statement, why don't we take these, as clear as we can make them, these grabs of these letters, and see what order that whatthefont.com IDs these letters in. Because it IDs an E. It'll say, am I seeing an E here? Yes, that's an E. Okay, that E is, Tahoma bold. Okay, great. Well, what if we put the letters from the Roswell memo in these blanks, letter by letter, and see what letters it says that it sees? And the answer was it had to ask every time. Well, what is that? An A? That's an A? It's like, no, this is not working. And when you're going to those lengths to try and identify a letter, it's an ink blot test. It could be anything. If technology gets better, if it evolves more till we can clear things up that don't show enough information, if it can connect the dots by algorithms, by what, maybe that will work.
Well, then why is this becoming an issue again? If that's the final answer on it.
Well, I mean, there's still going to be people that say, "Well, I'm getting results. I'm getting results with D-Blur, or I'm getting results with Photoshop, or, and the results that they're getting when they show you what they are so sure says victims of the wreck, you look at it and you go, there's no way you obtained that without removing pixels from that to make that say that. There's no way. If you could show me the step-by-step process by which you used to get that, okay, then maybe I might get reinterested. But nobody so far has been able to do that for me, to my satisfaction, to say, this is what you've got. What I see is people reading an awful lot into a bunch of blurry, blobulated pixels that look nothing like the letter that they're saying it is. This is something that they're purely seeing. I mean, I don't know how obvious it has to be for you to say it's a letter. Okay, for an R, I need a loop, a bar, and a leg. For them, they need a big blob with a little blob beside of it and a smear to the right. And they say that's an R. I'm sorry. Show me a clear R. Show me clear structure.
Does this get to the issue of education, of if you have Photoshop or a de-blur program, then you think you're a photo analyst.
Oh, absolutely. That's been for decades. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. People who use Photoshop every day think they're analysts of some sort. It's like, no, I'm sorry. Yeah, absolutely. And people using the programs and interpreting the pixel data to their own devices. There was a guy a while back, it got to be pretty popular because I think that he was selling his services to tell you what was really in your UFO picture, your blurry, pixelated light in the sky. He would blow up to some absurd degree and then average the pixels, meaning split them into quads and then split them again so that you get basically a blurry blob of light and dark. And he would make out shapes, and these shapes would be in the neighborhood of 10 to 20 pixels around. And he would claim, well, that's an alien head. Well, I got news for you. If that's an alien head, their heads are outside the craft, and the craft is the size of a Volkswagen. Their head is the size of a Mack truck. So scale-wise, it made no sense. But you didn't even have to go to scale. You didn't even have to go to averaging. You just say, you're zoomed in looking at a blob on the edge of a CCD chip that's trying to differentiate a black from a white. That's what you're looking at. He would take these blobulated, color adjusted pictures and say, there's a green alien. See, there's his eye and there's his nose and there he's reaching his hand out on a lever. And oh my God, you never saw such lunacy in your life. I mean, you guys think that you've looked at the orb photographs. Remember the orb? Oh, look, there's a face in one. Look, there's a guy standing in that one. I mean, it's worse than that. It's truly mountains out of molehills in the truer sense of the word. There's no difference in that. I mean, it's just it's people thinking that computers can do things that they just can't do.
So when you come in and you've got years and years of experience, do they respect that when you say
no? No.
Even on ATS where they know you?
That was the really disappointing thing about the Crete photo that came up. I mean, talk about a dream case. You got this anomalous single shot. and you got a witness who is a world-class photographer. And they don't know what it is. They don't know what they saw. But connected that with a synchronistic type of event for the day. And they're an artist, and they're a photography artist, and couldn't have been more open. Can you send me every picture on your camera? Yep. Boom. In my email box within minutes. Got the raw images. You couldn't ask for anybody more open, more willing to discuss it, more engaged and interested. And by the way, someone who didn't need this at all. Very well known in the art photography world. And I look at it and I go over it 6 ways from Sunday. It's got everything you could want, in my opinion. It's got distance hazing. It's got reflection. It's got, I don't know what it is, but whatever it is, it's really there. That's the most I can say. It's really there. It looks to be anomalous. When you first look at the picture, it looks like it's lopsided. It doesn't look to be symmetrical at all. But when you look at the channel specific data and you just look at like the red channel and you kind of adjust your levels, you see it is absolutely symmetrical. When you look at it in lab color mode, it is absolutely symmetrical. These are things you can't see from the original photograph. There's data in there that if it were going to be faked, I couldn't do it. Messing around in channel specific is really dicey stuff. You cannot just willy-nilly go in there and start moving pixels around. It's obvious when it's been done. Anytime I see channel specific stuff, it's like, no, this is something interesting, to say the least. It had everything. And I said, in the end, let me look at the horizon. I look at the horizon in the picture, and then I look at the horizon of the object. The object is symmetrical, and I can lay a guide in Photoshop right on it. It is perfectly level in the frame of the picture. The horizon of the Earth is not level in the picture. And that to me means that whatever this is, it aligned itself to the shooter. Okay. I asked one of the top flight ufologists of all time, had he ever seen such a thing as that before in a photograph that he could not identify what it was? Was there orientation to the shooter that did not correspond to the horizon elevation in the photograph? And his answer was absolutely yes. And so I said, okay, because I had not personally seen that before. Or if I had, I hadn't taken note of it. I wrote the report up. I made very factual statements about what I did to show, and included still shots and the whole bit. It's probably still up on Above Top Secret. And at the end, I gave my conjecture. I said, here's the bit where I say about anti-structure and about the creative people and about this and about that. And I laid that all out. And surprisingly enough, in all of the hoax stuff that I had shown to be a hoax, I got less pushback on that, and I got more pushback on, I just don't know what this is. If this is an anomalous object, it's whatever it is, it's really there, it's highly reflective, and that's all I can say about it. I don't know what it is. And you knew that the argument people who were coming forth saying, oh, that's nonsense, I know what it is. Well, two of their mainstay explanations were, the photograph contains a reflection of the shooter taking the picture. You don't see that often in a UFO shot, okay? In the picture, you can see that she's wearing, I think, sunglasses. I think that's what it is. She's wearing sunglasses. So they claimed that this was a reflection of her sunglasses bouncing in the mirror, bouncing into the camera, and reflecting in the sky. Hell of an alignment, right? And also, by the way, perfectly level to the camera. Okay. The other explanation that everyone seemed to like better is that in the picture along the road, because this is taken out of a passenger window of a car that was slowly moving, in fact, crawling, there were goats, wild goats, running alongside the car. Their answer, this must be goat sweat caught in midair. I'm not kidding. This was one of the excuses given to me. I just at that point I went, well, my report's there. Good luck. I was out.
Are you still in contact with the shooter?
Sure.
Anything new coming up?
Not so far as I've been told. Nope. But I will say that the art that this person produces and the imagery that they are drawn to me, is exceedingly esoteric and alien looking. But not overtly. In other words, it's not supposed to be alien looking. It's not supposed to be occultic looking. It just is. So I think they're a really interesting person, and I think that it's a really interesting photograph. So far as yet, I've not heard anybody come back and say that they know what it is, and that includes somebody who came into the discussion on Above Top Secret and claimed to have a program that they devised on their own who could decipher how far away it was and all of this kind of stuff. So including that person, they don't know either. So it's one of a very, very small handful of shots that I've seen over the past 30 years that I can say, I don't know what it is. And it's really weird. It's really weird.
Well, let me, we should probably wrap here in a minute, but let me circle back to hypnosis for one hot second, in a complete non sequitur, which is, you were saying that, the people in the Roswell slide community, or whatever you want to call it, team, the anti-Roswell slide team, they didn't want to deal with it because they didn't want to get rid of all their old books and all that research and all that. Would another tactic be to say, yeah, but what about David Jacobs personally? Like, we've got the tapes, you've heard the Emma Wood stuff, you've heard his rebuttal at this point, or you can go and read it. He needs to go, right? And then I think everyone with any modicum of sanity will say, well, yeah, great, let's focus on him. You get rid of him. Then you go, well, what about this Barbara Lamb? She's putting people on stage who claim to be hybrids. Anyone buying that? No? Well, let's get rid of her too. Let's do our best to educate people on her, and just go down the list of people one by one. And then there's no hypnosis anymore because there are no hypnotists.
Well, and that, by the way, wasn't the Roswell Slides group. They were saying, as far as the experiencer stuff goes, they're just not interested, and largely because of those reasons. Like, the people in that group never looked at David Jacobs and said, this is a credible researcher. They've always felt that what he did was nonsense. I think I can say that is fairly. I'm guessing that that's probably the answer that most of them would give. I don't think any of them really give any credence to that type of work.
Yeah, but there's no way to be like, yeah, but there's a difference between bad research and predator.
Yeah, but I don't think those people want to get involved in that kind of discussion. They just don't. I can't explain it. I don't know. Like, I'll put it to you this way. It's kind of like Lance Moody is a friend of mine. I like Lance. We've had great discussions on the phone. But to me, it's like the skeptic mindset and even the critical ufologist mindset about this stuff is that it's low-hanging fruit stuff. Like, it's easy to pick out certain people and say this is nonsense and go to the nth degree, like the Roswell Slides thing. That was a perfect example. Such low-hanging fruit one could not hope to find. But when it comes to something like hypnosis and Jacobs, that requires again, an investment in time. If no more investing of time than to listen to our programs on this. I've done 3. We did 4 or more together. I mean, come on. How much effort does this take? This is why I got so bent when Dolan makes a post saying, well, there's, something along the lines of that there was extenuating circumstances to his interaction with Emma Woods, meaning Jacob's interaction with Emma Woods. And so we don't know the whole story, alluding that he knows the whole story. Well, no, I know the whole story. You're wrong. And now you've just broadcasted to your entire throngs of devotees that there's more of this, and just ignore the man behind the curtain. That's the kind of nonsense that really drives my ire to that kind of nonsense. The guys at people like the Roswell Slides group, they wouldn't even care about that because that's not even in the realm of possibility for that. That's just like, well, that's just such crap. We don't even care about that. When I talk to just people out and about on the internet in different groups about hypnosis bad and this, that, the pushback I got was, things like, well, do we have to throw everything out? Well, how do we get at this? Does this mean none of these things are true? Does that mean there's no hybrids? Does that mean there's no alien babies and recovered fetuses and all? Yeah, that's what that means. This is just general UFO interested people that I'm talking about, not the Roswell. Roswell Slides group couldn't care less about, at least in my interaction that I noticed, they couldn't care less about that kind of experiential stuff. That just doesn't even, that never peaked on their radar to begin with.
So they think that there is something to Roswell and that the Roswell Slides are don't indicate it because they're a hoax. I mean, what is the point? Is what I'm saying. Like, do they actually believe anything about Roswell?
And I think there were some people in the group that do believe there's something to Roswell. I think there are other people in the group that don't believe there's anything to Roswell. It was a big conglomeration between skeptics and critical-minded believers getting together and hashing this thing out together. That's why it was one of the first groups of its kind to actually contain people from both sides of the fence who ultimately agreed on what they found and brought it out to the public. So we didn't wait for some heavy-handed image analyst out there to go, yeah, this is what it is. People just got together, did their thing, and brought it to the public and said, here it is. Here it is. This is the answer to this. And then you got, stupid responses from the Mason camp of things like, well, they altered the placard. Okay. Well, here's the algorithm. Here's the program. And here's the photograph. Do it yourselves. And people did. And they went, yeah, they didn't alter anything. That's what it says. And then people started to drop away. Schmidt made his big apology, and Bergalia made his apology and exited the thing. And I think the only people who are holding on to this is Kerry and Jaime Maussan. I think that's the only two people who are still harping this thing, although to a greatly diminished degree, because just nobody's buying it. I'm sorry, but yeah, I don't think. Based upon what I saw as being, like, there were some things bantered around in that group about what would be next. Like, what could we do next? And I don't think anybody ever decided what thing we should focus on next. I think it kind of became the Ramey memo. That's kind of where a lot of people went. But I dropped out of that because I just said, there's no point to this. This is a waste of time. I don't know if anybody is still at that or not, but
I just don't understand if they don't have anything to protect, if it's mostly people who don't believe that there's anything to Roswell, so they're not trying to protect an image or figure anything out that could be real, then why not go after the thing that's actually affecting other human beings and the person who is hurting them? I mean, I just don't understand that.
Well, I mean, to a bigger degree, things like like I said to Sharon Hill when I interviewed her, it's like, these skeptics, they're so worried about condemning witness testimony, saying it's completely worthless. There's no way that any of this should be accepted as fact. It's human perception and ultimately fallible and malleable and blah blah blah. And at the end of the discussion, I think I said something along the lines to her like, well, it confounds me that you've got these major skeptic organizations that are funded, that have offices and professional people who work full time at this, and you're more worried about what goes on in the parapsychological community and denouncing what goes on there. And yet people are convicted every day on witness testimony in our judicial system. Why aren't you doing something there? I mean, do you see the gravity of the two here? I mean, there's this thing that really doesn't mean anything to anyone except the people involved in it. And there's a thing that matters to everyone. Why aren't you attacking that if that's the case? And there was no good answer that I got from that. The answer is, again, it goes back to the same old thing. This is about ego. This is about, look at me. I mean, to me, Sharon Hill's a perfect example. She's a total look at me person when it comes to anything she does in the paranormal things. It's just by virtue of her writing, you can tell that's the kind of person she is.
Well, and then isn't there the other element, once again, getting back to religion, of secular humanism? Well, we don't go after that because it doesn't offend our sense of how the world is, which is materialism. And the UFO stuff offends their sense of materialism and their sense of science will figure it out once we get to it. But the jury system doesn't have anything to do with that belief system. So
right. Yeah, I mean, it's really backwards what people decide that they're going to attack and not attack. And I to the answer to the question of why don't more critical people denounce this kind of thing and like actively get it, like how can they not, if they care about this stuff, like the people who genuinely care about this, they can't listen to anything that we've ever said or anything that's ever been published in print, because there's been plenty published in print about this hypnosis thing as well. And not say, I'm going to write whatever organizer and say, I was going to come to your conference, but I'm not coming because you're having this there. And so I'm out. And until you straighten up with this, I'm out. If more people did that, you would see disinvitations going out, right? Because like Tyler said, ultimately, we, the public, are the ones who decide what we want out of the paranormal literature and investigations and data. And that's it. We are the ones who decides what's good and what's not. And until people start standing up and saying what's good and what's acceptable and what isn't, you're going to continue to get this crap that is just going to get more ego-driven stuff out there. It's going to be more fantasy-prone stuff like hybrids taking over the world. And I mean, the reason that this is still going on, we've answered our own question here. The answer is people aren't talking and they're not saying, hey, don't have this there because this. Don't have this person speak because this. They're just not interested in doing that. They're not interested in standing up.
See, I think it's even dumber than that. I mean, all the indications are that if you have a question about Jacobs, the answer is, well, no, I talked to David and he told me that she's crazy. So that's right. That's settled.
Well, there's that there. Yeah. Well, and that I'm not even well, I guess, yeah, you could go to stupid with that, but I mean, that's hero worship, and that's across, that's in the music business. That's in, how many people refuse to believe that, pick a scandal in the music business. I mean, the fans are never going to believe that so-and-so took drugs in a back room with a hooker, or, they're never going to believe that he really shot that girl in his mansion. And I mean, it's like
Gary Glitter going down to the Philippines.
Right. Exactly. I mean,
all those Gary Glitter fans.
Right. I mean, it's like, yeah. There's always going to be hero worship and devotion to that sort of thing. I don't think that you can see it any more clearly. And I feel like I've been picking on him, and I don't mean to, but well, maybe I do. Dolan, I mean, is to me is the pinnacle, example of a public engaged in absolute hero worship with their idol. And I think that's exceptionally poor judgment on a lot of people's parts to have that level of devotion to one person's viewpoint or their worldview on, how the world works and the nature of the UFO phenomena and the cover-up surrounding it and all of that. Because I'm telling you, to speak out against Rich Dolan is to earn the wrath of his fans, and there are a lot of them. And I earned that wrath and took it publicly as well. So it's. I think you're always going to find people willing to defend the work of Hopkins and Jacobs and Lamb and Sprinkle and all of these, people. I think that's just the nature of the beast. But I think if more people would just stand up and say, this is not acceptable. And I think a lot of people have realized that these people are not who they thought they were. We got a lot of that on the Waypoint episodes that we did about the subject. And when we played the Emma Woods tapes for people, we saw people right in the chat room saying, I had no idea. I had no idea at all. I'm astounded. I'm aghast. I'm ashamed. I feel embarrassed that I bought into any of this. Yeah, and I think in the end, that's a lot of what holds people back is that they did buy into it. They feel foolish now for buying into it. And so they'd rather say nothing than to speak up and say, I was inadvertently say, I bought into this, I was wrong, and now I know the truth. That's not always the easy thing for some people to say.
Well, I was sort of opposed to Jacques Vallée doing this conference in the first place just because he's surrounded by idiots, and so what the hell is he doing? But maybe there is something great about that. Maybe, people who are going to listen to him and then listen to a Jacobs or a Lamb are going to weigh the two in their head and can go, wait a minute, something's not right here because they're not saying the same thing. And this guy is intelligent and these people are morons or, however that comes out. It's the same thing. It's the Bernie Sanders thing, right? If Bernie Sanders stands on a platform with Donald Trump, you hope that people see the difference.
Yeah.
Even though they're both angry, it's not the same anger.
Yeah, I'm so over the mainstream ufology stuff at this point. Like, I just don't care. I don't care to hear anything about it anymore. I think Kripal and McKenna and Vallée and people like that and Hansen, these are the people that I really follow what they do a lot more than I do The Field. Because to me, there's meaningful stuff going on there and there's forward momentum there, whereas mainstream ufology with the Hopkins, the Jacobs, the Dolans, the Greers, take your pick, the Robert Dean, any of these people, or whoever's the popular flavor of the month. It's just spinning wheels to me. Like nobody's saying anything new or different or thought provoking at all. Like you and I talked about Eric Alvoulet. We don't agree with his premise, but I like that it was something different. I like that he thought about it differently in abstract ways and how he connected certain things together. Like I can appreciate that. And I still want to talk to him, on the program, but that's such a rare thing that somebody comes out with something that is so thought provoking and yet amorphous enough to encompass several different phenomena. That's more what I'm after these days. What I can't understand, and by the way, what we just got done talking about, the people who still align with their ufological heroes for whatever reason there might be, and the stupid things that kind of are born from that, to me, I find it very hard to get exceptionally aggravated about all of that. Certain bits of it make me extremely irate, but by and large, when I look at that, I go, and this is a la George Hansen, I just look at that and I go, well, that's completely to be expected. That is completely in line with everything that I have been exposed to when it comes to that theorem of looking at this, and that window that I'm looking at this phenomena through now. That fits perfectly into that pane, that window pane. So that I get, and I understand why it's there.
Then why is it still upsetting?
Because it should be so glaringly apparent to everyone that, and I am going to use a swear word here because it goes to what you said. You originated this. Sometimes bullshit is just bullshit. You know, sometimes there's bullshit that does filter through into this thing that I think we can say, yes, this is part of what what surrounds the phenomena. It encapsulates the phenomena. This is how it keeps eyes off. This is how it keeps things changing and elusive and all of that. But when it becomes so glaringly obvious that you can't go, really? Okay, no. This is like people like the guy who claims to have teleported to Mars. Like, I look at that and I go, are you kidding me? And yet there are hundreds of people, probably hundreds of thousands of people, who believe that's true. I will never be able to reconcile that kind of thought process, to not have the common sense to realize that that's nonsense. But again, it's to be expected. I get it. But it makes it no less easy to take in a lot of aspects. By and large, like I said, I get it. The hypnosis thing really eats at me. The Jacobs Woods thing really eats at me. But I realize that proliferation of that mindset being filtered through their work into books and into popular culture as it applies to this phenomena, I get it. I get it. Like, you know, I get it. It doesn't take a genius to see how marginal it is, how ridiculous it is, but how expected it should be. You know, I get it. And there's a social comment in there about that as well. There's something to be said about socially what we're after in this, which is, i.e., an answer of some kind, no matter how absurd or backwards it is. But Jacques speaking at this otherwise Fruit Loop convention, that goes back to the interview we did with him when you asked him something along the lines of, do you ever get irritated that you're surrounded by idiots in this field? And he said, well, I don't think there are. I think there are very good people doing very good work in this field. So my question is, when it comes to Jacobs and Hopkins, does Valet feel there's value in that at all? I can't imagine that he does. But what does he think? I don't know. I think
he's just here because it's the 25th. You know, it's their big gala celebration. So they were like, do you want to come headline this thing? He's like, yeah, sure. Pay my fee.
I mean, part of me
says... That's what I do. Just putting it out there. If they were like, you want to stand next to David Jacobs? Sure I do. But of course, that's not going to end well if I do it. But I would still do it.
Let me just ask, is this conference the one that is largely put together and produced by Open Minds, correct?
I think this is the one. Is this not the International Congress, which is actually produced by like Paula Harris and
okay,
the Meyer morons?
I don't know. I would say I don't know who's producing this. But the one thing that popped into my mind when I first heard about, when you first told me about this, was he is trying to build this UFO database, which takes capital and funding and help. And is somebody who is producing this, are they intricately involved in the financial end of that? And that's why he's doing it. I mean, that's just a guess. I don't know. Because I know that that's something he really wants to do. Otherwise, he wouldn't have gone on Coast to Coast to talk about it. Because when he did Coast to Coast, I wrote him. I asked him, would he come on to do, I think it was our last Paratopia or something along the lines of that. And he said, I only did it because of the thing that I was announcing, and that's it. And I'm back out again. I said, okay, no problem. So
it is Open Minds.
You know,
I'm on their website right now.
Okay. I don't think it's any secret that Open Minds is very well funded. So is that part of the deal that this person is funding part of that UFO database? Again, this is complete guesswork. I have no idea. But is that it? I don't know. I don't know. It's confounding. I have a feeling that maybe he just wants to announce. Maybe it's just that he wants to announce the database thing to the conference and see if he gets anybody to financially back it. But for all I know, it's already financially backed. Maybe it's for some other reason. No idea. But it doesn't seem to make any sense to me. Just doesn't. You know?
Well, you'll be interested to know that the topic of his speech is UFOs and Science, bringing together clarity and credibility, not ridicule.
Okay.
Good luck.
Okay.
I just see, do you think you can do that if you're sharing a stage with a David Jacobs and a Barbara Lamb? And, you know, you can go down the list and there are some decent people and some bad people, but they really stick out as just, I mean, he's harmful. And she's propping up actual human beings and saying, this is a hybrid. Can you stand on a stage with those people and talk about bringing together clarity and credibility and not call attention to it?
I think what is really amusing is to see the people out there on Facebook, some of which I'm friends with on Facebook, right? Or I'm connected with by virtue of another friend who might comment and then I might see their post. And anytime Jacques Vallée's name comes up, I see the wingnuts come out in droves to the name of Jacques Vallée saying, oh, he so influences my work. He's such an inspiration. I so love his, books and this, that, and the other. And I think to myself every time that I should just write, it's weird that you should say that because your work that I'm aware of in this field looks nothing like his work. So how did that influence you? I get the sense that there's going to be a lot of oohing and eyeing at Jacques at this conference, but very little in the way of if they're really going to, I'll put it this way. If any of the rest of them get any seats filled in their conference speaking areas, I'll be surprised. I think Jacques will be packed to the rafters. I think the rest of them should be spotty at best. If that's what happens, great. If not, and it's, if as many people show up to Jacobs as Valets, then what does that tell you?
Lee Spiegel and Dr. Jacques Vallée, UFOs and Science, bringing together clarity and credibility, not ridicule. Now let's go down to Barbara Lamb's. Barbara Lamb, meet the hybrids. I mean, this is on the same stage.
It's just a juxtaposition of weird. Yeah.
George Hansen's going, this is great.
Yeah, this is exactly textbook correct.
Paul Davids, the CIA, UFOs, and Marilyn Monroe.
Right. There you go. It's textbook. I mean, does everybody not see at this point that Hansen is right? Everywhere you look, it's present, and it's not present like this in biology or astronomy, or it's in this field surrounding this stuff is, the nebulous of it might be something truly strange, anomalous, and weird, but what surrounds it in the main body of the cell is just weird, stupid crackpots and cranks. You know, Jacques Vallée, you are our nucleus.
Unfortunately, that which surrounds you
Right.
is the vacuum of space.
Right, yes. There you go. There's your metaphor for it. We bring it all right back to the topic.
Full circle, my friends. All right. Well, Jeff, it's been a lot.
It has indeed.
And don't you dare ask me to take out the political stuff. That's staying.
No, I don't. I do apologize for anyone I might have offended, but, you know, I feel very strongly about this, and I just, you know, once you start down that path, it's really hard to turn around. So we hope we didn't bore anybody with that, because we know you don't come here to hear that, but you see how it all kind of fits together in the realm of stupid things and people, and, you know.
And how we got to get off this crazy planet.
Yeah, how we getting out of here. Yeah.
And so I apologize. We once again did not get to the last of the listener topics. So we'll pick it up next time with that, and perhaps we'll even have a guest. Who knows? Who knows what will happen next?
What was the last question, just out of curiosity?
I'm not telling you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, it's a surprise.
Oh, okay, great. I like surprises.
Why come you don't like surprise?
I like surprises.
Oh, good.
As long as they don't have bulbous heads and stand beside my bed in the dark.
Right. Right. Are we still talking about aliens?
I guess.
Oh, never mind. All right, everybody. Until next time, thanks for listening.
Yes, thank you. Good night.
One minor correction. It was not Anne Frank's granddaughter who said Donald Trump sounds like Hitler. It was her stepsister. Anne Frank's stepsister. Thank you and good night.